You said, remember, as hard as it is to work with a client, it's a million times harder to be that client. They have to live interiorly with what you're dealing with during that small percentage of your life. All right, so the next quote I have for you to unpack that you probably won't remember. We were talking about, again, struggle, and we're talking about difficult clients. We're talking about a set of personality defenses that are challenging for the clinician, especially in the early years, when it's hard to not, personalize what's happening between you and the client, and you have the imposter syndrome. You have this insecurity about your skills, and when a client maybe attacks you or tries to de-skill you or push you away, or many of the ways in which we defend ourselves, we all do these kinds of things. It's very challenging. It's very hard for you, and you take it personal rather than seeing it as reflective of their defenses. Yeah. And something you said about this was that you said, remember, as hard as it is to work with a client, it's a million times harder to be that client. They have to live interiorly with what you're dealing with during that small percentage of your life.
Yeah, you it's sort of a backhanded privilege that you're experiencing in that moment, the agony that the person is going through. And again, it goes back to the idea that you, in that moment, even though it's bothering you, and even though you might feel under attack and might feel de-skilled in the moment, that you're willing to bear that because you're helping the person to realize that, well, they're still valuable in spite of that difficulty that they export. So there's that. So having said that, one of the things that I think scares a lot of young therapists is the idea that, gee whiz, if I say the wrong thing, especially with a client like that, who's challenging and dismissive and not necessarily open to what anybody has to say to them, let alone you. You have a challenge like that and you have a rupture. The rupture is two-sided, that it's your nose is at a joint as well as the client's nose is at a joint. Is that the end of the world, though? No, it's the beginning, actually, because what occurs in the rupture is in their real life that people tend to then give them wide berth. They don't want to have much to do with them because they're difficult. Whereas your job is to do something different. That's what you get paid the big bucks for, to find something different. And the thing that you do different is you hang in there with them in spite of the rupture, and you get over your own wounded ego. And in the process you get over, help them to get over theirs, help them to see, yes, you've pushed me away, but I'm not going to leave you because I know that you're still inherently valuable and there's an inherent goodness within you that I'm still going to look for, I'm going to find.
There's it's a bit of a cliche, but it's true that underneath all these defense mechanisms is that fear of abandonment. These abandonment fears are what drives so much of what we do. And if we don't abandon the client, if we say, as you say, hang in there, that provides a corrective experience, and which makes it difficult. And I think the more you learn how to repair, the less concerned you are with rupture.
Right.
Exactly. You know how to fix it. I tell people it's like the tango. Therapy is like the tango. You get tangled up and you just tango on. I stole that from Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. Ain't no mistakes in the tango. Ain't no mistakes in life. So therapy's like that. Relationships are like that. They don't have to end because there's tension. There's real love there. It's like insulated. Like the tension's insulated by the connection.
Yeah. And so you're there to weather that. You're there to weather the storm with them, and so that change can happen. Another thing that I teach that's puzzling, because everybody talks about countertransference like it's a bad thing.
You're right.
And in fact, at least at least one theory that began to realize that maybe countertransference is very valuable in object relations theory.
Yeah.
They began to discover, well, the way you experience someone as disagreeable or as too frightening or as even possibly repulsive uh, is your experience is telling you something about their experience. And your task is, how do you get them to see their experience more deeply without further injury?
Yes.
And so countertransference, this willingness to be open
Yeah.
to their difficulties is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Nordling and I we got invited years ago to write an article on psychotherapy, actually. I'm trying to remember the Edification. It was a special issue of the journal Edification.
Yeah.
And what we talk about in the writing is exactly that it's not just countertransference, it's true compassion to weather difficult interactions with someone. It's something that therapists do, and most people tend not to do, unless you have a saintly friend who just has so much love in them that they can tolerate that. Most people will shy away from that, but we don't. That's what we do.
Yeah, yeah, and you can, and if we can help with curiosity, like explore their process of pushing us away. For example, we take one defense mechanism, then pushing us away, and help them see that they are not their defenses. Like separate that for them. Their defense, like align with them against their defense, and help them see this thing you're doing with me is what you do with everybody.
Yeah.
And this is not like, it was adaptive maybe at one point, but now it's not helping you get your actual needs met. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of Yalom's dictums, you had group with me, right?
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
And we looked at Yalom, and one of his great contributions was precisely that in a group, a person begins, the wonderful thing about group, I don't know if you do groups. I used to love to do groups. I've done
we do
hundreds upon hundreds of groups, and group is truth, because it's like Joe Louis said about the boxing ring. You can run, but you can't hide. In group, you can't hide. Your true self is going to come out. And Yalom talks about when your true self comes out, and you're too pushy or you're too phobic about hurting people, whatever it is that comes out, people are going to feed that back to you, and initially it's going to bruise, and so that's what the therapist is there for, to help you contain that so that it doesn't bruise you so much. But eventually, what happens is, well, it's not so much me; it's when I do that gets me in trouble. If I can only learn to do that differently, maybe I am redeemable. He doesn't quite say it that way, but I put it in kind of in our language, that we redeem ourselves by realizing that we're not necessarily programmed to do the things that don't work for us, that there's a better way. The great thing about our advocation in all of this is that Christianity gives you a better way.
Yes.
The other that's where many of the other psychological methods stop. They're wonderful methods. Thank heavens we have them, but they don't give you the virtues. They don't give you these core things that kind of guide you to finding a better way.